Ladies and gentlemen, most people go through life thinking mental strength is something you're either born with or destined to live without, as if it's some rare trait reserved for the elite, the lucky, or the chosen few. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Mental strength isn't a gift, it's a skill. A practiced, proven, and built over time ability that anyone can develop. And here's what most people miss. It's not the big flashy moments that shape the strongest minds. It's the small, consistent habits repeated behind the scenes when no one is watching. While the world chases motivation and waits for perfect conditions, mentally strong people are busy doing what others aren't willing to do. They don't just survive pressure, they grow from it. They don't avoid failure, they learn from it. And they don't let emotions dictate their actions, they use them as fuel. You see, the difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck has little to do with talent or intelligence, and everything to do with how they approach life when it gets difficult. Mental strength is not about having zero fear or never feeling doubt. It's about moving forward anyway. It's about holding the line when most people would quit. It's about choosing growth when comfort is begging you to stay still. If you've ever looked at someone succeeding under pressure and thought, what do they know that I don't? This is your answer. In this video, we're going to pull back the curtain and expose the 5 foundational habits that mentally strong people live by. Habits that aren't just inspiring, but practical and applicable habits that can transform your mindset, your discipline, your emotional control, and your ability to perform when it matters most. These are the patterns of thought and behavior that separate those who just talk about change from those who actually create it. So, if you're tired of feeling stuck, if you know you're capable of more, and if you're ready to develop the kind of mindset that doesn't just bend under pressure, but becomes sharper because of it, then pay attention. Well, what you're about to hear isn't hype, it's not theory, it's what the mentally strong do differently, and it could change everything for you. How many of you feel like you're capable of achieving more, yet something always seems to hold you back? How many times have you felt stuck, not because you lack potential, but because something inside you just isn't clicking? The truth is, success isn't determined by talent, luck, or even your current circumstances. It comes down to what's happening in your mind. It's about mental strength. The most dominant people in business, sports, and life aren't necessarily the most intelligent or most gifted. They're the ones who've gained control over their mindset. They regulate their emotions rather than letting their emotions dictate their behavior. They show up every single day with relentless consistency. They take full accountability for their outcomes. No excuses, no blame, just complete ownership. Today, I want to share 5 essential habits, 5 mental shifts that distinguish mentally strong individuals from everyone else. Because if you don't develop these, you'll always find yourself at the mercy of fear, excuses, and emotional volatility. But if you do, you'll unlock a level of focus and resilience that makes you truly unstoppable. Let's begin. The first is to control your focus. Where you place your attention is where your energy flows. This idea is one of the most powerful principles mentally strong people live by. Your focus acts like a magnifying glass. Whatever you direct it toward becomes larger and more impactful. When your attention is fixed on problems, those problems begin to feel overwhelming. But if you train your mind to concentrate on solutions, on opportunities, and on what's within your control, you shift your entire state of being. Life starts aligning for you instead of working against you. Mentally strong people are intentional with their focus. They don't let distractions or setbacks shape their mood or direction. They lead their thoughts with purpose, choosing every day to fix their minds on growth, improvement, and what's possible. This doesn't happen by accident. It's a learned skill. A discipline that, like a muscle, gets stronger with consistent use. Consider the highest performers in the world, whether athletes, entrepreneurs, or leaders. Do they waste their energy focusing on what's broken? No. They've trained their minds to seek out answers. They condition themselves to recognize opportunities even in challenging situations. Where others see barriers, they see potential. They concentrate on what can be done, not what can't. And that mindset gives them an undeniable edge. Now imagine someone constantly repeating negative thoughts. believing they aren't smart enough, talented enough, or that the odds are against them. That narrative becomes their reality. Their actions mirror those limiting beliefs. On the other hand, someone who shifts their attention to what's possible begins asking better questions. What can I learn here? How can I adapt? What's my next move? Those questions generate better answers, ones that lead to progress instead of paralysis. One of the most effective ways to regain control of your focus is by asking better questions. Your brain is like a search engine. It delivers whatever you tell it to look for. If you're always asking, why does this happen to me? Your brain will find reasons to validate that story. But if you ask, how can I grow from this? Or what's the opportunity here? Your brain starts working in your favor. The questions you ask shape what you focus on, and your focus shapes how you experience life. Visualization is another tool mentally strong people use consistently. They don't just hope for better, they picture it clearly. They rehearse their success in their mind long before it becomes reality. This isn't daydreaming, it's focused mental preparation. When the mind believes something is possible, it begins working to make it real. Ultimately, focus is a decision. You can allow the noise of the world to direct your attention, or you can take ownership and steer it toward what fuels you. When you learn to manage your focus, you gain control over your emotions. When you manage your emotions, you take charge of your actions. And when you take control of your actions, you take control of your life. Next, embrace discomfort. Real growth only comes through discomfort. Mentally strong people understand this deeply. They don't avoid challenges, they welcome them. They don't back away from adversity, they face it head on. They've trained themselves to feel at ease in difficult situations because they know discomfort is the key to transformation. Think about the individuals who never change, who repeat the same cycles year after year. Why? Because they resist discomfort. They fear failure, rejection, and uncertainty. They'd rather stay stuck in a situation that isn't working than risk stepping into something unfamiliar. But here's the truth. The discomfort that comes from staying stagnant is far more painful than the discomfort that comes with growth. Look at elite athletes. They push themselves beyond their comfort zones daily, not because it's easy, but because they know that discomfort is the price of progress. They don't quit when things get tough. They push even harder. Why? Because they understand that every repetition, every sprint, every moment of discomfort is building strength. They've trained their minds to welcome discomfort because they know that's where real growth begins. One of the biggest challenges people face when it comes to discomfort is failure. Most avoid taking risks because they're afraid of failing. But mentally strong individuals view failure through a different lens. They don't see it as final, they see it as feedback. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes part of the process. The most successful people are often those who have failed the most because they had the courage to take action despite the discomfort. Just look at history's greatest entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders. Every single one encountered major failures before they reached success. They embraced the discomfort of rejection, criticism, and uncertainty because they understood that facing those challenges was essential to becoming who they were meant to be. Think back to the first time you did something difficult. Maybe it was giving a speech, launching a business, or pushing yourself through a tough workout. At first it was uncomfortable, but with repetition, what happened? It got easier. You became stronger. Why? Because you exposed yourself to discomfort enough times that it became familiar. That's the secret. The more you lean into discomfort, the more resilient you become. Your tolerance for challenge grows. What once seemed impossible becomes routine. If you want to build mental strength, you must push yourself to do the things that challenge you, the things that scare you, stretch you, and force you to evolve. Discomfort isn't something to avoid. It's the price you pay for progress. It's the path to mastery. It's the key to unlocking what you're truly capable of. If you want to level up in any area of life, it starts by stepping into the discomfort that comes with growth. Next, master your emotions. Your emotions don't have to control you. You have the power to control them. This is a core mindset of mentally strong people. They don't allow fear, anger, doubt, or frustration to dictate their behavior. They don't let temporary feelings sabotage long-term results. They've learned to manage their emotional state instead of being controlled by it. This is what separates those who rise under pressure from those who fall apart. Most people live reactively. Something happens and they respond based on how they feel in that moment. Someone criticizes them and they get defensive. They hit a setback and they lose motivation. When plans fall apart, they spiral into frustration. Their emotions drive their actions, which leaves them vulnerable to whatever happens around them. Mentally strong individuals think differently. They recognize that emotions are powerful, but they also understand that emotions can be direct. They don't ignore how they feel, but they don't let those feelings take over. Instead, they use emotions as fuel. Fear becomes focus, frustration becomes determination, pain becomes purpose. Every emotion carries energy, and when you learn to channel that energy in a productive way, you become unstoppable. Picture an athlete preparing to compete. If they allowed fear and nerves to control them, they'd never perform at a high level. Instead, they manage their internal state. They channel nervousness into intensity. They reframe fear as excitement. They've trained their mind to support their performance, not sabotage it. This kind of emotional control doesn't happen by chance. It happens through consistent mental training. One powerful way to build this control is by shifting your perspective. Most people feel emotions based on the meaning they assign to events. Lose a job and they see it as a disaster. They feel defeated. End a relationship and they see it as a personal failure. They feel broken. But mentally strong people ask better questions. Instead of why is this happening to me, they ask how is this happening for me? They move from a victim mindset to a warrior mindset. The way you speak to yourself directly influences how you feel. Tell yourself this is too hard and you'll feel overwhelmed. Say, I can't handle this, and you'll feel powerless. But if you say, this is making me stronger, or I'll figure this out, you instantly shift your emotional state. Self-talk isn't just motivational fluff. It's the foundation of emotional mastery. Another powerful strategy is to take control of your physiology. Your body and your mind are deeply connected. And how you move affects how you feel. When you stand tall, breathe deeply, and move with intention, your emotions follow. That's why mentally strong people use movement to shift their internal state. They don't slump over when they feel discouraged. They adjust their posture. They don't sit in silence when they're upset. They take action. They use their body to influence their feelings instead of letting emotions dictate how they carry themselves. People who struggle with emotional control often get stuck in negative feedback loops. Something goes wrong, they feel bad, and instead of disrupting the cycle, they stay stuck, replaying the issue in their minds. Mentally strong individuals recognize these loops and break them. They redirect their focus, they move, they reframe. They don't allow themselves to stay in negative states, because they know that every moment lost to negativity is a moment they can't get back. Motivation is fleeting, discipline is lasting. Mentally strong individuals don't wait for bursts of inspiration to act. They don't depend on the perfect mood, the ideal moment, or flawless conditions. They've built a mindset rooted in relentless consistency, showing up each day regardless of how they feel. The problem for most people is that they only take action when they feel motivated. When they're excited, they give it their all. But when they're tired, they make excuses. When things are going smoothly, they stay on track. But when adversity strikes, they lose momentum. This cycle keeps them stuck because their progress is driven by emotions rather than commitment. Mentally strong people don't allow that to happen. They understand that real success comes from consistent effort through repetition, discipline, and dedication. Look at the most accomplished athletes, entrepreneurs, or high performers in any field. They didn't succeed by occasionally working hard. They succeeded by showing up day in and day out, regardless of their emotional state. They created habits and systems that keep them moving forward. They don't depend on motivation, they depend on structure. Take the example of someone who wants to get in shape. They start strong, work out for a few days, but then miss a session, and another. Before long, they lose momentum and getting back on track feels overwhelming. Now, compare that to someone who commits to showing up consistently, even if they don't feel like it, even if they only do a little, they keep going, and over time, that steady effort compounds into undeniable results. Mentally strong individuals understand that discipline is like a muscle. The more it's used, the stronger it gets. What begins as effort eventually becomes habit. What once felt difficult becomes second nature. That's why the strongest people maintain daily routines they don't break. They don't argue with themselves or give in to excuses. They've made consistency non-negotiable. Most people believe they need motivation to begin, but in truth, motivation often comes after taking action. When you act even without feeling inspired, you generate momentum. That momentum then fuels motivation, and the cycle builds from there. This is why mentally strong individuals never sit around waiting for inspiration. They act first and let the motivation follow. The real test of mental strength isn't how hard you work when you're energized. It's how steady you remain when things get difficult. Anyone can be consistent when everything is going well, but what about when you're exhausted, stressed, or overwhelmed by obstacles? That's when most people give up. But mentally strong people press on. They've conditioned themselves to move forward regardless of circumstances. The truth is, the strongest individuals aren't always the most talented, the most naturally gifted, or the most fortunate. They are the most consistent. They are the ones who show up day after day, year after year. They've built a mindset of unshakable discipline, and because of that, they achieve what others only imagine. Now, take full responsibility. Mentally strong individuals don't shift blame, make excuses, or wait for someone else to fix their situation. They take ownership of their choices, their actions, and their results. No excuses, no victim mindset, no pointing fingers. The moment they accept full responsibility is the moment they gain full control. Most people go through life blaming others when things go wrong, their past, the economy, their boss, their environment. But mentally strong people recognize that responsibility equals power. The more they own their circumstances, the more influence they have to change them. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you can control everything. It means you control how you respond to anything. Instead of saying, "This isn't fair," they ask, "How can I turn this around?" They eliminate excuses. They don't say, "I don't have time." They say, "I haven't made it a priority." They don't say, "I can't afford it." They ask, "How can I create the resources?" They refuse to live as victims. Regardless of what's happened, they focus on what they can do next. They don't wait for motivation. They don't depend on luck. They don't accept mediocrity. They hold themselves accountable. They follow through, and they take charge of shaping their future. Mentally strong individuals understand that the moment they blame others, they surrender control. The moment they make excuses, they stay stuck. Rather than focusing on what's unfair, they focus on what they can do to change their reality. They take ownership of their time, their decisions, and their emotional responses. And when things don't go their way, they don't waste time complaining. They ask, "What can I learn from this?" They see every setback as a chance to grow. Instead of saying, "I can't," they don't wait for someone to come fix things. They create their own solutions. Taking responsibility also means following through. While many say they'll do something, most quit when it gets tough. Mentally strong people don't. They honor their commitments, especially the ones they make to themselves. They know that success isn't built on luck. It's built on discipline, consistent action, and taking full ownership. They control their mindset, their emotions, and their decisions, shaping their future on their own terms. Mentally strong people don't view challenges as obstacles. They see them as opportunities to rise. They understand that adversity is a natural part of growth, and rather than resisting it, they use it to build character. Every struggle becomes a chance to strengthen their mindset. They don't wait for life to get easier. They train themselves to get stronger. They accept that challenges will come and go, but their ability to persist must remain constant. This is how they separate themselves from the crowd, not by avoiding hard times, but by rising through them. They've developed a long-term mindset. While others chase quick wins and instant gratification, mentally strong individuals stay focused on what truly matters They're not interested in shortcuts. They're committed to the process because they know the process produces results. Patience is one of their greatest strengths. They understand that meaningful success takes time, and they are willing to invest days, months, and even years into their vision without seeing immediate results. Why? Because they believe in what they're building. They value progress over perfection. They know they'll make mistakes, but they don't let those mistakes stop them. Instead of striving to be flawless, they focus on getting better. Growth becomes the goal, not approval, not applause. They don't compare themselves to others. Instead of measuring their worth by someone else's achievements, they track their own progress. Their only competition is who they were yesterday. That's how they stay grounded and focused. Mentally strong people protect their environment. They're intentional about who they spend time with and what they expose their minds to. They surround themselves with people who uplift, challenge, and inspire, not those who drain, distract, or discourage. They've learned to say no. They understand that every yes is a trade-off, and protecting their time and energy is essential. Saying no isn't selfish, it's strategic. It allows them to stay aligned with their highest priorities. They set clear boundaries. They know that peace is power, and they don't allow toxic energy or chaotic situations to derail their focus. They protect their mental space like their life depends on it, because it does. They're not afraid to be misunderstood. They know not everyone will support their journey or understand their mindset, and that's okay. They don't seek validation from others. They validate themselves through their actions. They lead themselves first. Before they try to influence others, they make sure they're walking in integrity. They live by example. Their consistency, discipline, and emotional control are their loudest message. Mentally strong individuals also understand the power of rest. They don't glamorize burnout. They know that recovery is not weakness, it's strategy. Rest allows them to recharge, refocus, and return even stronger. They don't let their past define them. No matter what they've been through, they don't carry guilt, shame, or regret into their future. They've learned from their history, but they're not held hostage by it. Forgiveness is a strength they practice often, not just for others, but for themselves. They understand that holding on to resentment only weighs them down. Releasing it frees their energy to focus on what truly matters. They're not emotionally reactive, they're emotionally intelligent. They can recognize their triggers without being controlled by them. They pause, reflect, and respond with intention, not impulse. They stay calm under pressure. When chaos surrounds them, they remain composed. They've trained themselves to slow down, breathe, and maintain clarity when others panic. This gives them an advantage in any high-stakes situation. They don't let fear paralyze them. They move forward in spite of fear, knowing that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action despite it. They use fear as a signal to grow, not a reason to stop. They embrace feedback. They don't take it personally. They use it as data. Whether it's praise or criticism, they filter it through the lens of improvement. Growth is always the goal. They don't need to prove anything. They're not chasing approval. They know who they are, what they stand for, and where they're going. Their identity is rooted in values, not external validation. Mentally strong individuals invest in personal development. They read, they study, they seek mentorship. They never stop learning because they know that their mind is their greatest asset. They don't settle. They have high standards, not just for others, but for themselves. They're not interested in living an average life. They're committed to excellence. In everything they do, they stay grounded in gratitude. Even while pursuing growth, they never lose sight of what they already have. Gratitude keeps them humble. It keeps them centered. It reminds them of how far they've come. They adapt quickly. When plans change or life throws a curveball, they don't freeze, they adjust. Their flexibility allows them to keep moving forward even when the path looks different than expected. They remain future-focused. They don't dwell on past failures or setbacks. They learn, they adapt, and they move on. Their eyes stay locked on the future they're building. They make decisions based on principles, not emotions. They've defined their values clearly, and those values guide their actions, even when it's inconvenient or unpopular. They keep promises to themselves. Their self-trust is strong because they don't make commitments lightly. When they say they'll do something, they follow through, especially when no one's watching. They see discomfort as a signal that they're on the right path. When things get hard, they lean in. They understand that struggle is often the sign of growth, and they refuse to back down from it. They celebrate progress no matter how small. They don't wait for the big win to acknowledge their efforts. Every step forward is a victory, and they honor that. They practice mindfulness. They stay present. They understand that stress often comes from living in the past or worrying about the future. By staying in the moment, they maintain clarity and peace. They control what they can and release what they can't. They don't waste energy on things outside their control. Instead, they pour their focus into the actions that truly make a difference. And above all, they never give up. No matter how many times they fall, they get back up. Because mentally strong people know it's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you rise. So if you're serious about becoming mentally strong, start today, not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient, right now. Master your focus, embrace discomfort, take control of your emotions, be relentlessly consistent, take full responsibility for your life, because in the end, it's not the most talented who win, it's the most disciplined, the most committed, the ones who refuse to quit, the ones who keep going when everyone else stops. That's the difference. You don't need more motivation, you need a decision to show up, a decision to do the work, a decision to be the kind of person who doesn't wait for the world to change but becomes the force that changes it. Your future is waiting, and it will be shaped by what you do today. This is your moment, not a someday maybe, when the time is right moment, the moment where you draw the line between who you've been and who you're becoming. Everything changes the second you decide to take ownership. No more waiting for motivation. No more waiting for someone to save you. No more relying on circumstances to align. Mentally strong people don't wait, they act. And action is what creates transformation. You don't need perfect conditions to start. You need commitment. You need consistency. You need to show up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's where your strength is forged. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to build resilience. Every failure is a lesson in disguise. Every obstacle is a chance to rise. The world doesn't need more excuses. It needs more people who are willing to do the work. Your goals don't care how you feel. Your dreams don't respond to how tired you are. They respond to action. They respond to effort. They respond to grit. This is what separates dreamers from doers. Discipline doesn't just build results, it builds identity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who follows through, someone who finishes, someone who leads. The way you speak to yourself matters. Your internal dialogue can either build you up or break you down. Start talking to yourself like someone who deserves success, because you do. The strongest people in the world still feel fear, still feel doubt, still face setbacks. But they've trained their minds to push forward anyway. Mental strength is not about never feeling weak. It's about choosing to rise anyway. Stop negotiating with your potential. Stop giving yourself an out. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," you're training your mind to delay greatness. Start now.